When we last left you on our countdown of the Super Bowl era's most disappointing teams, we were looking at the 2013 Atlanta Falcons at number 23. And while they were certainly a disappointment, our next team on the list is even more so. Before we get to that, let's quickly talk about C-Score. C-Score is a metric created by this channel that evaluates every single team of the Super Bowl era a lot more comprehensively than simply looking at its record. For a deeper explanation about how C-Score works, be sure to check out the description of this video. Let's quickly run down how teams make this list. They must register a season with a positive C-score, then follow that up with an even higher C-score that clears 15. After that though, their C-score drops into the negatives, with this serving as the disappointment. The larger the drop from season 2 to season 3, the higher that disappointment will rank. They were kings of the Bay Area for the past decade, but their reign was coming to a swift end, and on more than one account. Coming off a Super Bowl championship, the Oakland Raiders of 1981 are taking the 22nd spot. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get ready to roll. Oakland wasn't setting the world on fire in 1979, but they were a well above average team. They went 9-7 with a fairly standard point differential for that record. They were more offense than defense while playing the league's 8th hardest schedule. Their C-score is 8.277. This was the dawn of a new era for the Raiders, with head coach John Madden retiring to be replaced by Tom Flores. This was also a hard-luck group, playing in a very competitive AFC West that churned out the conference's #1 seed, with only one team landing a losing record, and even that was just at 7-9. They had a tough time within the division, going 3-5 against their 6-2 record outside of it. A 3-game losing streak early in the season was immediately followed up by a 3-game winning streak. At 6-6, they put together another 3-game winning streak to enter the final week of the season at 9-6. A major highlight was a 21-point second-half comeback over the Saints in New Orleans. Their final game would be against the Seattle Seahawks, who had defeated them by 17 points earlier in the season in the Kingdome. Still with a shot at making the playoffs, the Raiders instead capitulated defensively, going down in defeat by a score of 29-24. This was the first season since the AFL days of 1964 that the Raiders failed to finish in the top 2 of their division, finishing 4th. But unlike that 5-7-2 team, this team still had a winning record. Their standing in the Bay Area was completely unchanged though, with the 49ers enduring a truly awful season. It may have been Oakland's second consecutive 9-7 year without a playoff appearance, but there was no reason to panic heading into 1980. And as it turned out, the 1980 regular season went pretty well. While their points scored ranking was exactly the same and their strength of schedule ranking was essentially the same, that points allowed ranking popped up along with everything else, giving the Raiders a C-score of 16.712. That 11-5 record got Oakland out of their one-year rut of not finishing in the top 2 of their division. The Chargers repeated as division champions, but only by the slimmest of margins. Both teams were 11-5. They split their regular season matchups, both went 6-2 within the division, and 9-3 within the conference. San Diego won the tiebreaker on account of their better point differential within the division, plus 60 against Oakland's plus 37. It was off to the wildcard round then, where they faced another tiebreaker scenario with the 11-5 Houston Oilers. It was much more straightforward this time, with Houston only putting up a 7-5 conference record. That gave the Raiders home field advantage, where they cruised to a 27-7 victory. Because NFL rules at the time didn't allow teams from the same division to play in the ironically named divisional round, Oakland instead traveled to Cleveland to face off with the Browns. With the Raiders already involved in 3 famous nickname games, the Immaculate Reception, the Sea of Hands, and the Holy Roller, they decided to add another one to that list, beating Cleveland 14-12 in the Red Right 88 game. Now they could take on the Chargers to settle matters in the AFC West once and for all. They flirted with giving away the 28-7 lead they built up, but held on and went to the Super Bowl, where they became the first official wildcard team to win it all. The Kansas City Chiefs did so in 1969 as the second place team in the AFL West, a division that was won by the Raiders, so turnaround is fair play. Forget just being kings of the Bay Area, the Raiders were once again kings of the NFL, having done so in stunning fashion, beating an excellent Eagles team with ease. All of this with the controversy of a pending move to Los Angeles that the league had outright rejected. 1981 was shaping up to be a very interesting season for the reigning Super Bowl champions. Interesting, yes. Disappointing? Also yes. It may be that the Raiders emptied their holster the season before, because none of that spark appeared here for any length of time. They dropped to 7-9, their first losing record of the entire Super Bowl era. They took a step back in just about every area, but none more dramatically than their freefall to the 4th lowest scoring team in the league. That dragged their C-score all the way down to negative 9.56. And consider this. 4 different times this season, the Raiders scored at least 30 points when the league-wide average was under 21. Had they maintained just an 18-point average the rest of the way, they would have stayed in the top 10 in scoring. Of course, that's not what happened. Not even close. Their other 12 games saw them average fewer than 12 points, highlighted, or I guess lowlighted, by 3 consecutive shutouts. Those came against the Detroit Lions, the Denver Broncos, and the Kansas City Chiefs, none of whom finished in the top 8 for fewest points allowed despite those shutouts on their record. As a team, they had the 6th most passing attempts in the league, yet they finished 21st in passing yards. They only had 1 game all season where they didn't turn the ball over, and they only had 1 other game with only a single turnover. Yes, in their other 14 games, the Raiders were on average good for more than 1 turnover per half. To see just how far they fell, let's take a look at this chart. Here is every single Super Bowl champion to this point, and here are how many Pro Bowlers these teams had the following season. As we know, the Pro Bowl can sometimes be based more on reputation than actual play on the field, which will serve to juice some of these numbers. But no team is below 4 here, and only 2 teams are under 7. The average sits at just over 8.5 per team. Want to take a shot at how many Raiders made the Pro Bowl in 1981? Yeah, you probably thought it was going to be 0. They did manage 2. Cornerback Lester Hayes, who was coming off an NFL Defensive Player of the Year award, and Ted Hendricks, coming off a first-team All-Pro season, the 3rd such selection of his career, and owner of one of the greatest nicknames in the history of the entire world, the Mad Stork. In fairness to both players, they were among the 3 best players on the team that season, along with linebacker Rod Martin, according to Pro Football Reference AV. This all pales, though, to the Raiders' off-field drama. In May 1982, the Raiders officially left town and headed for Los Angeles after winning an antitrust lawsuit against the NFL. So never mind that the newly crowned Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers had now become kings of the Bay Area. They became the only show in town. at least for the next 13 years. Owner Al Davis pulled off the most impressive back-to-back in sports history, a league championship one year, a successful lawsuit against his own league in the other. The Raiders break another point barrier, seeing their disappointment score hit the skids at negative 26.272. Our next entrant is a franchise that was referenced by name during this video that has yet to make an appearance. Who do you think it is? Be sure to join us for that release in order to find out. Thank you so much for sticking around this long. Make sure to like and share this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you've yet to do so, along with dinging that notification bell. It helps out so very much, and it is greatly appreciated. The newly minted Los Angeles Raiders had more wins in just 9 games in 1982 before once again winning the Super Bowl in 1983. That may cause 1981 to look more like a blip on the radar, but it also amplifies just how badly the entire season went down. The uniqueness here, something not measured by C-score, is that for what anybody could figure at the time, this was the end for the Raiders in Oakland. Of course, they returned, then left again. Now that they're in Vegas, I think this one is for keeps. Let me know what you think about this Raiders team or the Raiders in general during this time. Do you think Al Davis is one of the greatest owners of all time? Was he unlikable and unwilling to adapt to changes in the league? Or perhaps somewhere in the middle? Sound off on these topics or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.